Hi, Grace. Thank you so
Hi,
much for
Sarah.
joining me today. I'm super excited to talk about officiating, officiating in general, and then, of course, officiating a tiny wedding. So, first, I just kind of want to learn a little bit more about you and how you started officiating. So, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we
Sure.
can learn more.
Okay. Well, I'm actually a life coach, I guess is the easiest category to put me in, and a relationship coach. And I got my training in psychology and social work and everything, but I also ended up involved in a holistic health center where we had workshops and retreats. And everything about what we did was to provide experiences, including with ceremony. It was a yoga based place. So in the East, they're very ceremony centric and ritual centric. And I just lit up. I just loved it right from the beginning. I love to have people participate and do things that then helps them be in touch with what matters to them inside. So it just was sort of kind of natural for me to lead people in experiences. I've been a teacher for 35 years. I love this stuff. And then when I
Mhm.
moved to Hawaii about 12 years ago, second time, it's wedding central. And I met all these people in the wedding industry, and they said, Grace, why are you not officiating? You're natural at this. And I went, officiating, of course. I've always loved weddings. Since I was a little girl, I had a bride doll, and I just always have loved. There's something about, I'm a love person. That's my life's work, is to support more love on the planet, especially conscious love. So I started out there and thought, this will be my life. I'm going to be a wedding officiant in Hawaii, and everything's done. And then my mom was elderly and my family needed help. So I got called back here, and it just went on the back burner. I had other things I had to do. And then right before COVID, I got invited back into it right here, and I just never looked back. I've been doing it since right before the shutdown. So I started backyards and beaches and parks, and very, really, really tiny. And I love the tiny. It's very intimate and so much less stressful. And now I'm doing all of them, the big ones, the little ones. And it's just, I feel such joy in this role. I feel honored. It's quite a thing to have couple allow you to be, there's only three of us up there. And it's quite a powerful role, really. So it's natural and easy for me. I love it.
That's great. That's great. And you've officiated two of our tiny weddings so far, and you're on the books to do the May 22nd event as well as the July 16th event. So I've had the pleasure of watching you marry several couples at this point. And I know that you make each one really special and personal, which is such a joy to watch and be a part of. We as a planning team are always surprised with what you do for every single ceremony. So that's really exciting. So one question I have for you is what I know with our, especially with a tiny wedding, we really do try to make it short and sweet, and so that the wedding doesn't extend on and become more of a stressor. We're really into low stress weddings, which is the short and sweet version. So what would you say is really important to include in a ceremony that is on the shorter side, but you still want to make very meaningful and impactful?
Yeah. One of the nice things that I think I bring is that I didn't come from church-based wedding ceremonies, even though I grew up in the church and have been to many of those. My framework is, this is meant to be a transition from your singlehood to your marriedhood. And it's a, maybe this isn't your language, but it's a holy moment. It's a big deal. So the more I can help the couple really take time to think about, okay, we put all the event stuff off our plate, and Sara and the team are taking care of it, and we don't have to have a year of planning. That's all done. So what if we just take time to think, well, what does marriage mean to us? What are the words that matter to us? What are the words that we don't want? What are our values? Is there a reading that would matter to us? Is there somebody in our family? Very first one we did, there was a child, and he got to be part of it. And each couple is so unique. My excitement is to listen to them. I send them a questionnaire, and they have more questions than they could ever want, that I've asked them to really think about what's our style. And if we're up there and we're going to commit our lives to each other, how do we want that to go? And the catch is most people haven't been married before. So other than what they've seen at their friends' weddings, they don't really have ideas. So I love working with them, and I've got ideas like this. It's like, well, of course, we're going to probably do rings and vows. That's the most important part. And I'll proclaim you married, and we'll get your license signed. So there's the bare bones. But everything from your procession, it can be anything you want, your music for your procession, opening remarks. Do you want a prayer, or do you want just a quiet time to settle your nerves? And then usually I also like to engage with their dearly beloveds, their guests. There's usually only a handful of them. Some of them are on Zoom, and they've made a big deal of being there for you. You've asked them. So it's a family, it's a community event. And the whole point of doing it in public is to ask their support. So I usually find a way to include them. And they always like that. They perk up. It's like, oh, we're important here. And then finding the tiny little things. There's so many of them. Sometimes there's a little mini gift that you can give to your partner. Like in weddings, rice is a big deal, and they usually throw it at the end. What it symbolizes is the bounty of the earth. So you can actually do a little ritual where one of you hands a little few grains of rice to your partner, and may you always be nourished. May you always have all the bounty that you need. And may you know that I will support you in that, and we'll work together. And then the other one could offer a few drops of water, and may you always have inspiration, and may you always know I'll be there for you in your happy times and your tearful times, or a little candle. And may you know that I always will see your light no matter what happens. So there's tiny little things that they can participate in if they're willing, that make it more alive. And if that's not your jam, there's other ways. You can invite somebody to do a reading. One idea I heard recently was they asked somebody who couldn't come to write a little tiny love note, like 2 minutes, and it got read during the ceremony. And that's the kind of thing that often will happen at a reception, but our receptions are small. So there's a little tiny poem. And then if they want help with their vows, I'm happy to help them, to write them or give them suggestions. So like that.
That's amazing. And it really shows that with the Seattle Tiny Wedding, this is how we personalize each one.
Yes.
So we are marrying multiple couples in a day. But the ceremony in particular is, we match them up with you. We hook them up with you right at the beginning, as soon as they book. And, you guys get to work on really personalizing the ceremony and making it meaningful and special in that amount of time, that 15 minutes. So
and it's easy to do. I mean, most rituals take maybe a minute or two, if at most. And then some of them have a cultural influence. I think there's a couple that their family's flying in from Japan. They're one of the ones coming. And even though the couple is like, no, that's not our thing, and we're really American. It's like, well, but they're coming all this way. So you might want to, one tiny little thing I heard was learn to say, I love you in your culture's language, or let me learn to say welcome in that country's language. It can be that tiny. But so each couple's so different and unique. And that's what I love, is the creative process of making. And then, some of it's very deep and heartfelt, and people are crying because it's a big deal. And then there's the next moment and we're laughing and having a lighthearted moment. And it can be as fluid and flexible as you want. So
and you're really the expert in this. And that's what I love. Like you said, these couples, generally it's their first marriage, maybe their second, but they've only done this once or twice before. So they are not experienced in it, and it is a really big deal. And so having someone like you to guide them through the process, with all of your experience and ideas, and your ability to direct and couple with them really on this to give them something that is so meaningful. It's really special. So, and I think you're so good at it. It's so fun to watch you watch what is produced from the work you guys do together. And I will say it's not a ton of time. It's not like you can do this in a short amount of time, because you are the expert and because you're experienced at it. So
and I think that's what I like, is that most people are a little nervous, especially the couple, and they feel a little exposed. I mean, we're doing this in public because it is a public declaration. And when you do that, you invite all the support. But I Again, I can't say this enough. When they walk up there, I just feel like they're my family or my children or my friends. And my heart bursts open. It's like, I'm going to hold you here. I feel safe. I feel relaxed. I love this stuff. You can be nervous. You're about to make this big, huge commitment. I got you. And
Yeah.
that's really, and then just to help everybody settle in and relax, because it goes by in a blink. And I want it to turn into the invocation, the entry into a lifetime of marriage. I mean, it takes such a little tiny time, but every anniversary and every moment where there's a bump in the road, and it's like, well, what did we say we were going to do again? I want it to be that meaningful that they'll remember.
Mhm. Yeah. So tell me, I know if couples want to work more with you, they can. I know that's one of the add-ons that we offer through Seattle Tiny Wedding. All of our vendors have add-ons that you can use to or purchase to make the experience more customized to you. And your add-on is couples counseling. And so if they want more time with you before or after the ceremony to really get a solid foundation, they can. So tell us what that entails for our couples.
Okay. Just before we go there, I did want to just make a plug for, if you want a more involved ceremony, there have been couples that actually planned out their whole ceremony before they realized they wanted a tiny wedding. The last slot of the day is optional to be longer. So
Yep.
if you want a more extended ceremony and help with more creativity, pick that slot, is what I would just say.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that adds on 2.5 more hours to your wedding. And what that allows us to do is give you a customized timeline. So it doesn't have to be the 15-minute ceremony, 45-minute reception, 30-minute photo session. You have 3.5 hours to do with what you will. And we work with you to customize that timeline so you can do the longer ceremony. And however you want it to look, we work with you to achieve that. So yeah, and adding a little more oomph to the ceremony is definitely an option.
Yeah. One other thing I remembered I wanted to mention before, which sort of goes into the counseling thing. Quite often in a couple, there's one, it's often the woman. And if it's not always, sometimes there's a shy person and sometimes a more extroverted one. But I notice quite often when we start, it's like, well, whatever they want, whether it's male or female, whatever they want, I'll go along with it. It's very sweet. And it's often the bride, and the guy's just like, it's not my thing. We'll do it. And if they'll let me, I just like, okay, that's okay, but you're going to make the commitments too. And you're half. So even if this is not your thing, you're not used to talking in public, you're sure not used to exposing your feelings in public, there's a way that the two of you can have a conversation and really think about, is there one thing? Like an example, they decided they were going to have two readings, one from a grandparent and one from somebody that wasn't able to be there. And the bride was like, well, then we'll pick the readings for them. And the groom was like, no, I want them to pick them for us. And out of all the things that he had an attachment to, she's like, what? Well, we won't know what they're going to see. He said, exactly. I want them to love on us their way, not our way. And it was this one thing. And if we hadn't really plumbed for it, it wouldn't have come out. So to those of you that feel like you're the shy or the quiet part of the partnership, you matter in this. And if I can help you, cultivate your ideas, that would be wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then on to the counseling. I was very, very blessed early in my life to go to an organization that was all about conscious personal relationship with self, and conscious relationship with other. And we grew a multi-million-dollar wellness business based on those practices, that as I know myself and grow myself, I'm always learning and I'm always evolving and I'm always bringing forth the best of me and taking care of what maybe isn't the best of me. So I tasted that so young in my life, and it just has served me so well. Because then when life comes and pushes buttons, which it does, and challenges me, I know what I'm bringing to the table, whether it's an interaction with you or a situation. So the way I couple counsel, if they're willing, is to just start with 3 sessions. And the first is just with one of you, and the second is with the other. And I will teach you how to turn inside and learn to pay attention So what's really driving me? What are my beliefs? What are my reactions? What are my things that I'm attached to that I don't even know I am? What are my fantasies and imaginations about who I think you need to be? And really get to know yourself so that as you come into your partnership, you're going to get triggered. I mean, if you put two people's lives in one house, you're going to be bumping into each other. It's just the nature of the beast. So you want to know what tends to come up for you, and also how to access your best self so that you can breathe through your reactions and go, okay, wait a minute, I'm really charged right now. How about if I calm down and go get centered a little bit, and then let me come back. So if both people know that, I've watched so many couples who they love each other like crazy, but they just, it's like, and then when they learn this self-connection practice, it's like, when I come to you, I've already taken care of myself. And it's like, it just goes up, it's like, oh, hi, there you are. Oh, there's that person I love. Oh, hi, how you doing? And I can own my stuff instead of blame you or react to you. And then the third one is, how do I skillfully dialogue? How do I really speak from my authentic self, my truth, own it, and express it, be vulnerable, make requests? And how do I listen instead of, well, wait a minute, that's not how it is. And I don't see it that way. Well, just listen to me. Let me have it my way for a minute. Oh, I see. That's how it is for you. I may not think it's that way, but that is how it is for you. And learning to empathize and validate are just relationship gold. And when someone, a skillful partner, can do that for you, you start to relax and settle and go, it's not about that issue at all. That's not what it is. I just want to know that I matter to you. I want to know that you really care. Well, that's easy. Of course I care. Okay, then what do we need to do about the thing? Because when you don't call and you're late, it triggers my fear that you don't care about me. And when you can dialogue that openly and honestly, and each have a turn, you get on the same team. It's like, oh, that's our issue. I'm triggering you. You're blaming me. Let's go over here and figure out what we need to do about that thing as a team instead of, compete with each other. So it's not rocket science, but it's kind of like a formula, and you can learn it. And then if you have a series of sessions where you're practicing, it becomes the way you do relationship. And then I love it if couples will have a weekly check-in or even a monthly check-in. How is our marriage going? Have we put the time and energy into it that we need? It's our first baby in a way. It's our first creation. Let's make sure we're investing in it, and let's bring in all these good skills. And then you're growing together, and you're really each other's champion instead of the person that triggers you and upsets you all the time. So that's how it goes. And I've worked with couples that have been married. I had one couple that were on the brink of divorce, 25 years. And the wife basically said, you work with Grace or I'm leaving. And bless this guy's heart, he came in and they did about 2 years worth of work and changed their marriage around. Mm-hmm. And then I've had other couples that started out, it's like, we don't want to get married. We had one marriage, it failed. We want to do this before we get married. You can have just a little taste, or you can do a big investment. To me, it's what makes the difference. It's like, good luck. When they walk up down that aisle, I'm like, God bless you. Good luck to you. I hope it goes well. I hope you've got the skills that you need. And when they do develop those skills, it's so weird is we don't get this in school.
No.
There's no really communication, self-awareness, self-development, relationship building skill set in school at all. So
no, and I think it's really important. I think even just committing to couples counseling in the beginning, it sets an intention that this will be something that is revisited, and this will be something that's important, and that you are setting that intention right from the get-go, that we know this is something that we're going to put our time and effort and love into to create and grow and nurture. And just making that, just right off the bat, by getting that couples of counseling, you're setting that intention and making that commitment to something that is going to be ongoing.
It's so striking to me that if we want a career, we'll spend maybe 1 to 2 to 5 to 10 years training ourselves, and getting certified that we're qualified for that career. Parenting, not so much, good luck. But those two most important roles, parenting and coupling, we don't have that mindset. And when we do, when we are like, this is the most important thing in my life, life has blessed me with love. Why wouldn't I want to take care of that? Like it's the greatest treasure of my life. So go back to school. That's all this is. Just go back to
Mhm.
school. And a couple said last week that once they went into counseling, they realized, oh, this is taking the gloss off of it. This is taking off the projection of happily ever after and helping us realize this is a team effort. It's going to take both of us for our whole lives. And we need skills and we need commitment to be able to do that. And it's like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So, I
What
mean,
do you
there's
think is the most obvious skill that a couple can work toward to set them off on the right foot?
most people would tell you it's about listening, which I do believe is true. My thing is self connection. If you know how to care for your own inner world and have a relationship with self, which is basically what self esteem is, it's like I know how to care for myself. And if both of you are doing that, you have like, I'd say 80 to 90% of the job handled because you're not just reacting. And again, I can't say it enough. If you're going to live with somebody, they're going to be your greatest trigger. They're going to push up against you, and all the stuff that you're not in touch with is going to come up. So if you can learn that skill set of how am I, what am I feeling, what am I reacting to, what am I wanting, and become empowered in that, then when I come, I'm I'm empowered. I've got more self-confidence. I'm more relaxed. I feel safer. And then I can open my mouth and say to you. So, and then the skill of how to do that is the second thing. Instead of you this and you that, and you need to change, and it's all your fault, to I own, and requests. But to me, where it's all happening is in here. So if you can get a handle on that, you're good to go.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I think that is a different way to look at it. The number one answer I'm assuming is communication and
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're totally right. And in that if you can get yourself where you need to be, and if you can listen to yourself,
That's
you're going to
right.
show up your
Absolutely.
partner in a different way. And if they're in that same space, then you're going to come together in a completely different way that is so much more um level,
And, again, I
than
don't,
if you're
yeah,
both cramped up in a
absolutely.
different way. So
And I don't like to typecast at all, but usually in a couple, there's one that's kind of into this. It's often either the woman or the person that's more in touch with their feelings and more sensitive. And they're like, yeah, let's do this. And then the other one who just grew up in a culture where that just wasn't what they were taught. And they're like, oh, that's not me. I don't do that kind of stuff. We just get along. We just do our work. We, have a home. We're good buddies. We go hiking. We like each other. That's good enough. It's often that's the person that's having a harder time. It's
mhm.
so outside their frame of reference. They're like, I don't even know how to talk that language. I don't even know. So I love to teach people practical practices and break it down so it's super easy. And then it's just a matter of just now you've got that building block, put another one in it, and anybody can learn this. So there's
Mhm.
often a reluctant participant, but if you can come and give it a taste, then you'll know whether it's worth it or not.
Yeah, and actually just purchasing that 3 session package is a great way
It
to
really
dip
is.
your
Because
toe
then,
into it.
absolutely.
Mhm.
And the relief I see when couples, when they come to the third session and they each share with each other what happened, they're like, you did that? You did that? You sat and breathed and you knew what you were feeling, and you could say so, and you can tell me what you want. It's like we've broken through a barrier of how we're allowed to be with each other, and be more vulnerable and more authentic. So,
Well,
and a
that's
lot of couples have fantastic relationships, and they've been together a long time before they choose to get married. So they've got a great foundation. And this can even add on to that, because if there's going to be kids or there's going to be busy lives, that foundation can hold when we're young. And then as we evolve and change, and maybe we change together, maybe we don't, you want a really good infrastructure to help hold you to keep it going for the long haul.
well, that's great. Well, thank you, Grace.
Mhm. And if people do want help with the ideas of what to include in the ceremony, I've got a list a mile long. So, or
Yeah.
even like I said, just help with the vows, what to say, how do you make it you? There's so many options, and it doesn't have to be according to any script. That's the other thing. I always work with the couple and give them an overview of what we're going to do and make sure the key steps are in there. But I like to engage with them and with their guests and let it feel kind of a little more relaxed, like we're all in this together and it's not like we're in church and everybody has to behave.
Yeah. I think with
I
the
mean to
tiny,
just respect that in any way, shape, or form, because I love those weddings as well, but it's not quite what we're doing here. So,
yes. And I think this is something that came out of COVID. I found just being in the wedding industry is that couples are moving away from the more traditional, what they think is expected of them.
yeah,
And it's really opened up a ton of different options
really
for couples to
has.
get married. And we are definitely, we take that tact with the tiny weddings is that we have a framework that we're working within, but we really do want it to be personalized for the couple and they can do whatever they want. So when we are planning the processional and recessional, it is totally up to them. And we're happy to guide them and let them know what most people do or make suggestions for their family dynamics, but it is totally up to them. And
Yeah,
we encourage them to embrace that it's their day and that
yeah,
they get to make these decisions and do it the way that feels good to them.
yeah.
And so, and that may not be the more traditional route. So,
Right. And I think it's a breath of fresh air. It's like, oh, really? We really can. And unfortunately, the bigger the wedding and the more people that are involved in all the moving parts, sometimes it's harder for the couple to stay true to what they really want. So having this all simplified and all provided, it gives them that breathing room to think, what do I really want? And it's going to be more relaxed. There's only going to be
yep.
us and our little gang who are usually our closest people. So we can have a little bit more lightheartedness with it. One idea that I saw and have done with really small outdoor weddings is if it's just a few people, why not have like a semicircle or even a circle around the couple and let them really be there and get to see each other. And it's like we can shake it up. And if the venue allows something like that. And so it's
Mhm.
really creative. It's not just cookie cutter. And every one I've done has been different, even in the same venue.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that we're moving away from
Yes.
what is expected, the pressure is really been relieved and people are coming up with all kinds of really amazing, fun
Really.
things to do. So,
Yeah.
and I love seeing it all. That's,
Mm.
been really fun to watch over the last couple of years, how things have unfolded in terms of weddings. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I just want to put a plug in for you and your team. When I show up to these, I was thinking about it today. And even though we're kind of helping couples, modern couples go, it isn't a fairy tale. It's a big deal. Marriage is nothing to scoff at. And it's not Cinderella, with the slipper. But when I come into these tiny weddings, I actually feel like it's a fairy tale. It's so charming and so the way you matched the venue with all of your creative input and the decor and the flowers and the lighting, it's really quite remarkable. I don't know how the couples feel because I don't think they see it ahead of time, do they?
No, they don't. That's part of the
And
fun is the surprise.
it's so, I love it. If I were getting married, I'd be like, oh my God, they did exactly what I hoped they would. So, and I say, if you want to know that it's going to be really, really well done. And I've watched you. I mean, you go from one to the next, and you just know what you're doing. You've done it a million times. It's spotless. It's meticulous. It's really lovely to work with you and your team.
Oh, thank
Enjoy.
you.
Mhm.
We really love what we do. Part of the fun of a tiny wedding for us, part of the fun of this model, is that we get to design from start to finish. And we really do take into account the time of year, the venue. Flowers are a really big part of every Seattle
Very
tiny
much
wedding.
so.
So, and that's really, flowers are my favorite part of a wedding. So just, so I definitely make sure when we're planning one of these, that flowers are
Aw.
center. So,
great.
but we take all those factors in and we make it really beautiful. And that's part of where we're coming from as we're just a design forward company.
Yeah.
So,
And even
and every couple can expect that.
Yeah. And even the ceremony, I mean, the reception part, I get to stick around and they're all different. The one couple did dancing, and then the other couple, they broke the chocolate, whatever that was. And everybody's, even though it's kind of cake and champagne, everybody has some room in there. If there's a family cultural thing that can include, there's a lot of room for creative input.
Yeah. People shouldn't be afraid of the time limitations, because we definitely do work with each couple, and we can get a full wedding into that small amount of time, but really without the stress. So it really comes down to, you don't have to go hours and hours with your wedding planner trying to figure out what you want and what your parents want and all of that. It's really, all of it's done for you. And then we sit down with you and ask you what's important for you to accomplish. And if that's a family tradition, that you want to incorporate into your time, we absolutely work with you and make sure that happens. If it's first dances, if it's, a cake cutting, or none of those things, we have couples that choose not to do any of those traditional things. We make sure that it happens just the way you want it to. So, and you have a full planning team behind you to guide the day and make sure that it happens. But you don't have to hire every vendor. You don't have to sit down for hours and hours of planning meetings. You don't have to, sign all the contracts. All of that is done for you. You meet with us twice is all, and we're able to get all of that accomplished for you. So it's really a fun thing to do on our part. We absolutely love being a part.
And you've picked such high-end vendors to be part of your team. Everybody's like top of their profession in my experience so far. So you're getting a really high-class group of people that really know how to do this. It's not like just because Seattle Tiny Weddings is fairly new in our area, the level of professional-ism is just mind-boggling to me. It's really powerful.
Yeah, we've been in the wedding industry in Seattle for over 12 years. So we know a ton of really amazing vendors. We've been
sure do.
We've been on all, kinds of weddings, indoor, outdoor, mountaintop, boats. We've done it all. And so we have a lot of experience, and we do bring on only professional vendors. So everybody on site that day is a pro at their job, and we've worked with them before and we know how great they are. So it makes our job way easier to have all of those great people there. Yeah. Well, tell us how people can connect with you. You don't have to book a tiny wedding to work with Grace. So let us know how people can find you.
Thank you. Yeah. So as I mentioned, I've been a life coach, personal development coach for my whole career. And I do have a website that has more information on if you just want to come and do some counseling on your own to just grow your experience and learn these skills of how to take better care of yourself. You can come as an individual. And if you want to come as a couple and not do a tiny wedding, that's totally fine. So it's just my name. It's just www.gracemcleod. McLeod is MacLeod.com. And it's all there. And then I also have a website, Officiant Grace, where it's all my wedding packages. In case it doesn't work for you to do a tiny wedding, I can officiate your big wedding.
Yep. So. We do big weddings too. So you can always go to Wander Design and Rentals. We have a full, regular full scale planning team there as well. So if the tiny wedding model doesn't work for you, you can work with us there too.
Cool.
Great.
Well, thank you for this.
Of course. It was great to see you today, Grace, and chat with you more. And I know you're going to be on the May wedding at Cathedral. So I'm looking forward to meeting with you there. Yep. And then the Baker Bow House on July 16th. So great.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Grace.
Right. Take care, Sarah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.